Hello everyone, this is Vinay here from Learn Coding with Vinay, and we are into the video number 4 of our mini video series where we are building database. We are designing a database for a business case, and the business case is drinking water distribution. In the previous video, we discussed vendor process and we listed tables related to vendor process. Now let's try to deep dive into each of these tables. Right. So these are vendor employee salary history, vendor vehicle, vendor vehicle run, and vendor water rate. So we just listed the names in the previous video. Now let's dive into the details of this particular all these tables. Right. So here are the table. Right. So let me take you to the vendor employee table. So this table will actually hold the detail of the employee of vendor. Basically it's a mapping between vendor and employees, right? So what all data point we should lock over there, right? So id will be always a running number and primary key. Then the vendor id, right? And this vendor id will be actually the id of this, will refer to id of a user table, right? Similar way, employee id, again it will be referencing the user id table, because we already have names, mobile number, email, other details in the user table is our common table which will hold actually the basic information of each user, be it admin, vendor, employee, right, customer, whoever is there, right? So that way we have designed it, right? So vendor id, then the employee id, then salary, so basically amount of salary for that particular employee, and salary type, whether an employee is an salaried employee or a daily wage employee. Then is active, whether employee is currently working with that vendor or not. Yes will say yes working, one will say sorry working, and zero will say no, not working now, right? Because this vendor help us, they keep changing their vendors, because it usually if a helper is a daily wage employee, right? So one day it might be working with one vendor, another day it might there is he or she might be working with another vendor, right? So this is that kind of business, right? Then updated on last, basically these are the last updated on and last updated by. Ideally we should make these also refer, yeah, we should make these also refer to user id only, right? So this is our vendor employee table. Let me go ahead and create this. Okay, so there seems to be a problem. Invalid date. Okay, let me say invalid table user. Why invalid table user? We have the user table. Oh, okay. Because we are into the master database, we'll have to make sure we are in waterdb database, right? Okay, so let me go ahead, and run this now, and it worked, right? Okay, now next is this, since we also want to maintain the history of employee salary, right? So the next table is vendor employee salary history. Over here what do we need to do? First is always again an auto generated column, integer identity. Second is vendor employee id, so that will be this is actually a foreign key and it refers to id column of this vendor employee table, this one, right? Then the salary month, basically 1 to 12, then salary year, right? Then paid status, whether it is paid or not. Then payment mode, now payment can be done in cash also and online transfer also. So as of now we have kept only these two values. If there are others, then we'll have to alter this statement, right? So as of now let's say cash and online transfer only, right? Then the payment date, when was the salary paid, right? Then number of days work, these can be marked optional, because we are not taking the present and absent days. Basically we are not maintaining time sheet over here, so we can ignore this, actually not required. Let me remove this, right? Or let me have this, because ideally ultimately for a daily wage employee it will be calculated based on the number of days he or she has worked, right? And next one is the salary amount, right? Now although salary is stored over here, we are again storing it over here because there are good chances that the vendor might provide start providing higher salary to some of the employees, maybe driver, maybe helpers, right? So storing the actual amount, whatever the current salary, that will always be over here. But this is this is the one that will hold the actual salary for that particular month. So since this is an historic data, we will have to put down the salary column over here also, right? Because someone, let's say, imagine someone is working for a 1 year, right, for a vendor, and was getting 5,000 rupees per day, let's say, per month, for example, hypothetically, right? Now next year that salary is increased to 6,000, right? So the 6,000 should stay over here, but over here in this table there should be 12 entries of this of that particular employee with salary 5,000 over here, right? So that employee can also log in and check his or her salary status in the previous years, right? So that's why we have designed it in that way, right? Now next is vendor vehicle, right? Now sometime vendor may have one vehicle. I know the person coming to my home, they have, I guess, two vehicle, right? There are other vendors coming to our society to deliver this water, they have only one vehicle, right? So depending on, so it's basically one to many relationship between vendor and vehicle, right? So for vehicle, what do we need to have? We need to have a ID, again, a running number, then vendor ID, who is owning that vehicle, then vehicle number, basically vehicle registration number, right? Then vehicle type, whether it is a three-wheeler or four-wheeler. This is optional ID, and this can be ignored. Optional. This can be ignored. Then capacity per liters, right? So how many gallons we can put down into that vehicle, that we can store, right? Then is active. Now sometime you may have to deactivate a particular vehicle because that vendor is no longer using it. Maybe vendor has sold it out for any reason or something like that, but the history should remain, right? So that's why we have not implemented logical delete, sorry, we are not implementing physical delete, we have implemented logical delete to maintain historic data, right? So we will just mark this as 0, so it will be, the system will not consider this particular vehicle as a part of the system, right? So it's kind of delete flag, it's kind of deleted in from the system, but it is there, it is not physical delete, just a logical delete, right? And then remarks, anything, if someone wants to, while marking it active, inactive, they want to put down some remark, then this is the remarks column, right? Now next one is the vehicle run. Now daily vehicle run, now this, in this table we need to store the daily vehicle run details of the vehicle. So what do we need to have? Ideally we need to have vehicle ID, which is again referring to this particular table, right? Then the run date, on which date the vehicle was out for delivery, then the driver ID, who was driving it, then the helper ID, at least one helper ID we will need it, then who is the guy who is helping in to the delivering water bottles to the households, right? Then before, in the morning, they need to note down the start kilometer and end kilometer, right? Because based on this, they owner of or vendor will be able to calculate, okay, how many kilometer I have run for today, or maybe in a one run or in another run, right? And the next one is total gallons delivered, so how in one run how many gallons were delivered, something like that, right? Then the remarks, if they want to put down some remarks regarding each run, then the remarks column. So this will contain the vehicle detail, and this will contain the daily run of the vehicle. And this analysis will help vendor to determine that how much gas fuel he or she needs to put in into this vehicle. Maybe vehicle, if vehicle is eating too much of fuel, then vendor can decide whether to replace it with some other vehicle or buy new vehicle, right? So this decision making can be come out of this data. So that's why we are storing this, right? We can even plan to have one more column, let's say gas refill done, right? We can have this as a amount, or maybe we can have this as a number, right? Sorry, it should be decimal. So we can store the amount which was used to refill the vehicle, right? So something like 200 rupees, 500 rupees, whatever it is, in one particular run. Then this, at the end of the month or at the end of the year or whatever, this column can be used to calculate how many, how many times they have refilled the vehicle, and what was the amount they have spent behind it, right? So as of now I am not keeping this, right? So we'll move to the next one. Now vendor water rates. Now as I said, each vendor will have their own water rate to deliver to the customer, because some of them are coming from a very nearby location, some of them are coming from a far location, right? So usually the 20 liter price per 20 liter changes between 12 to 15 rupees. That's what the rate in our area is now, right? So now let's understand that how to store these vendor rates into a database table. Then what do we need to have? Again, yeah, obviously the identity running column, which will be primary key. Then the vendor ID for which vendor, right? And rate of the month, again between 1 to 12. Rate year, rate per gallon, right? Usually 12 to 15. Updated by and remarks, right? Now usually the rate does not change frequently. It's hardly once in a year or twice in a year, right? But we still have to store the rate month and rate year separately. Why? Because the again, depending on the petrol price or gas price or any other regulation from the government or anything, right? The prices might change in between of the year, right? So to accommodate, rather than having the same price for the entire year, we have kept it for a same we have kept the table design in such a way that we can store per month price of a gallon, right? So that's the reason we have separate month and year column over here, right? And I think I explained a lot, but I missed to create those tables. So let me create this table. Okay, excellent, this is working. Let me create this table as well. This is also done. Okay, cannot find vendor vehicle daily run. Okay, why? What is the problem? Let me see. Let me There is already an okay, so I have already created. Let's move to the next, right? So all table got created. Remember we had 1 2 3 4 and 5 table. Now this 5 table covers almost the vendor process, right? Vendor related stuff are stored in the database, right? Now that's it for in this video. In the next video we will try to go over customer perspective and try to go over data points of customer perspective and create those tables. So thanks a lot for watching this video. See you in the next video.